tools that exist and how you are helping entrepreneurs bridge that gap.
Thank you. Those are great facts. In fact, when we look at signing these agreements, that's because Canada only represents 2% of the world economy. That's why trade is very important for us as a nation in order to develop and create opportunities for the folks that live in this country. Every entrepreneur in businesses, when they go into business, the main driver is return on investment. And that return on investment usually comes with the level of risk that they will take. And when we look at companies doing business in North America, Europe, and some other OECD members, the return on that investment is very thin because obviously the risk in these countries are also very low. The next market is obviously the market where there's the perceived amount of risk, but that also comes with higher return on that potential investment. If a company is able to find ways to either outsource that risk to take advantage of that opportunity, that will create opportunity both for the company exporting and both for the country importing, because it does provide the opportunity to import tools and strategy to change the lives of the people there. That's where we come in. We're international risk experts, so we've been managing these type of risks for about 75 years, whether it be a risk of not getting paid, whether it be a risk of the investment, potentially being seized by a local government, or simply a risk of a potential coup, making your assets and investment in those countries exposed. Those are the risks that working with Export Development Canada, we're able to take on for a Canadian company, but more importantly also for the importer, the companies from abroad that are looking to leverage all of the knowledge and the sector expertise that Canadian company has to offer.
So would you say you work mainly with business people within Canada, or also people on the other side of the equation, be it in Africa or elsewhere?
We work with both sides of the equation. So we have the ability to actually provide some financing to foreign companies in order for them to buy from Canada. So if you're a foreign company and you do have access to, and you do have available financial information that is externally confirmed and verified, you can actually borrow from EDC in order to make your purchase in Canada. Alternatively as well, we can work with your Canadian supplier to provide them some sort of flexibility around the resources so they can give you financing that may be cheaper than what you may access in your local market if you can get access to it.
What would be the main challenges that you see among clients who come to EDC?
Number one is making sure that they do get paid, especially when you're venturing. When you do business locally, if somebody doesn't pay you, you can drive there, and it's probably a $200 to $100 investment and your time. But if you have somebody overseas that doesn't pay you and you significantly made an investment, and typically most entrepreneurs would borrow money in order to invest into inventory, put it on a ship and ship it abroad. Although it's been transformed, it's still their money, it's still the resources. So making sure that they get paid is the number one concern, which is a service that we can ensure that if they don't get paid, we'll pay them.
I'll have other questions, but we'll maybe move on to Alphonsus Hutio. So you are in the agribusiness, in research and development. Talk to us about some of the challenges and opportunities that you see with respect to trade to Africa, or with Africa.
Yes, in fact, the major challenge I see in Africa is that the natural resources, the commodities are there, particularly in the agricultural sector. In fact, if you go to most places in Africa, you will see, for example, the fruits. You will see more fruits on the ground than you will see on the tree themselves. So the opportunity, the challenge I see mostly in Africa is the ability to be able to preserve the food for tomorrow. And that means ability to be able to transform that agricultural commodity either to value-added product, if it is a fruit, either to a beverage, to a jam, to a dry product, to something that you could put as an ingredient, in which case it was raw, but you could sell for tomorrow. Because some of the areas, the electricity is not, they not have that exposure to electricity. So as a result, they cannot freeze the product or so put it in refrigeration. So they need a very good food preservation technology to be able to transform. The opportunity I see then for us is actually, we have the opportunity here in Canada through the Food Development Center with the technologies that we have, with the scientists we have, and the facilities that are there. And this has been one area that some of these business people from Africa approach us, to be able to share some technologies with them that they could even transform something like beans, to take that into a value-added product. We work with a company in Kenya that they were very excited to be able to transform the beans, to make it into a roasted nut, just like we have peanuts here, so that kids can take to school. And that created a small cottage industry for the group. We are working with companies now that actually have farms in the area, and they've hired people that are doing the farming. But there is no a way to be able to preserve the product. For example, we work with a company that wanted to transform hibiscus to value-added product, because people realize hibiscus, in addition to being nutritional, also has some health benefits. So we were able to work with this company to be able to develop the product. They actually then started marketing it here in Canada, and Winnipeg here, and other places.
So, Mr. Yukio, how would people who are here visiting from Africa and interested in new markets, how would entrepreneurs in Africa be able to intersect with the Food Development Center in Portage la Prairie and do business?
In fact, the first step is already, in fact, is what is here, what the World Trade Center has done. That is a window, that actually they can have that initial question. This is what I'm looking to do. These are my challenges, actually. Where can I access the resources to support the challenges? That would be the first step, actually. That would be World Trade Center open. Now, with what German Consulting is doing, he also has a window to that, actually, that people can easily approach him to say, this is the area that we are looking at. What type of technology? Where can we find that kind of technology? What does it? Of course, then we can then work with the person to say, these are our capabilities. And if the capabilities is not here, say at Manitoba, we have access to some of the other technology centers that you can point people to the right, and they can achieve what they're looking to.
I'm going to ask you to pass the microphone over to Dr. Bessing, and I'm curious to know what it is that motivated you to come from Arizona to participate in this 3-day conference.
I was impressed by the first report of the ECCA meeting. I got the report of the first meeting with all the ambassadors, the ministers who were represented, and I found out that it was a very structured organization. And then I proposed to our board if I can participate.
And so what is it that you would like to walk away from your experience here in Manitoba?
The experience, what we have in mind is to find some partners. Those partners not only have to collaborate with us for the work we already did, we're doing, because we have the model in the US. But the goal is Africa. Normally the goal is to have partners who can assist us, work together with us to try to reach Africa.
And we've talked a little about challenges and opportunities. What are some of the challenges you've met so far in trying to translate this model into Africa?
I think the first challenge, before we go to the challenge, if I may, Africa already has what we call the land. There is the land in Africa. Then the challenge right now, in the case of our enterprise, is to have a structure to build school and to have well-trained professors and technicians. When we have those people with us, first of all, the first thing we need is even some volunteers. We don't ask like if we're going to directly have them to come and receive something, but we need some volunteers to start. And then if you have those volunteers and well-trained people and people who can lead us to that direction will be the best thing I can receive from.
Excellent, and you were just gonna add something about a challenge. What is the main challenge?
I think that the main challenge, first of all, is to try to explain to the authorities of Africa, our leaders, what we want to do. But we have to be clear, because I think sometimes the challenge comes up when the mission is not stated. We have to know exactly what we want to do and why we want to do it. And after that, we think that we need to also, because there is the psychological part of life, is that sometimes because the people we're dealing with, we're coming from another culture. This is the West. This is Africa. Africa already have their own culture. Then we're going to have to translate what we have here in the West in the language the African will understand exactly what we mean.
I'm going to maybe pass the microphone back to Chuck. You know, we've heard too, this gives you an idea of the breadth of industries and opportunities that may exist in Africa and here in Manitoba. How does our economic and cultural diversity here in Manitoba lend itself to trade with Africa?
Well, I think it lends itself very well, and I think one of the things that the audience may not be aware of is what the province has been going through over the past 18 months is an economic development strategy for Manitoba. The challenge that we were seeing for a lot of business owners that would come to Manitoba or even be located in Manitoba was, what's that pathway to grow your business? And it was a challenge because there are a lot of players that play in that role. So what's happened in the past 18 months is the provincial government has gone through a process to identify how do we do economic development better. So I think we're at a very good point in terms of how do we look at it from the perspective of prospective business owners or those that are coming to Manitoba in terms of what's that pathway. And whether it's World Trade Center playing that lead role in terms of any sort of trade agency is a key component. We've also developed agencies in regards to looking at innovation, agencies in terms of looking at tourism perspective. If you're looking at from a regional perspective, whether it's northern Manitoba or rural Manitoba or the city of Winnipeg, there are now go-to organizations that are well connected to be able to make that ease a lot, not as difficult as it had been in the past. And I think that's a key point in terms of we finally recognize that in this province that we need to do economic development better so that we make it easier for companies coming in. I think as well having a broad range of new Canadians as well, a variety of different cultural backgrounds. Winnipeg really is a bit of a melting pot in terms of having that strength from depending on what countries you're from, that that those communities are already well established in Manitoba.
There are 100 languages spoken in Winnipeg.
And we've got a very strong it's a very strong immigration program in Manitoba as well in terms of trying to attract and integrate new Canadians into the workforce. So my sense is that the timing couldn't be better in terms of finally being able to take advantage of some of those opportunities and making it easier for businesses and for individuals that might be looking to come to Manitoba or do business with Manitoba, and providing them a better pathway to understand that process.
So are there certain types of industries in particular that Manitoba would be interested in attracting right now?
Well, I think you always have to play to your strengths. And the one good thing about the Manitoba economy as compared to a number of other provinces is that we do have a diversified economy. So when you see downturns, whether it be in the oil industry or the manufacturing industry in Ontario or Alberta, it will impact the entire economy. What we see in Manitoba is that we've got a number of strengths. Agri-food is one in terms of diversified agriculture. We've got a strong manufacturing sector. We've got a strong aerospace sector in Manitoba. We've got a strong natural resources in terms of mining and oil. So we play in a lot of different areas. So I think that's a benefit for us. Some will say, well, that's also a hindrance because you don't have ones that are extremely strong. I would suggest as well we're getting a very strong telecommunications industry and with ICT. So there's a number of different industries I think that play a real strength in Manitoba. And I think creating an easier pathway for businesses and companies looking to explore us are better. I think we can still do a lot better job from a provincial government perspective, and this is this is a challenge that World Trade Center has had to take on in terms of how do we really strengthen that trade portfolio that we have in Manitoba in terms of doing outreach as well as when we're bringing new delegations in. We need to do some work on that. That's something that we've been critical of our own government on, that they need to do a better understanding of that to try to attract businesses and people to Manitoba. So there's work that can be done. The great thing about the Manitoba business community as well, and the associations that exist, is we're extremely well connected. And it's very unique that Winnipeg and Manitoba, there's a certain isolation to us, so we have to work together. And I think the relationship that organizations like Manitoba Chambers of Commerce have with World Trade Center and SIDAM, and these organizations that we'll meet with on a regular basis, and we're all working to address the same things. How can we create a more prosperous Manitoba and attract more business?
Yeah, and I think the World Trade Center's presentation showed that, we're very much a medium-sized province, which has the benefit of being small enough that people know each other and are connected, but large enough to get things done as well.
That's absolutely, whether it's connections with our post-secondaries, education, all of those things have been well established in Manitoba, and we recognize that if we're wanting to attract companies and businesses to our province, it needs to be done in collaboration, and we typically will work together in what's going to be in the best interest of the province.
I'll ask you to pass the microphone over to Mr. Fogang, and maybe you can tell us, maybe give some advice to people who have come from Africa here today on what they could do to maximize their chances to at least begin a conversation or get their idea off the ground.
Thank you. I think maybe I'll go back on some of the challenges. I think that's where probably some value can be added here, especially if you just flew in, it's your first time, you're meeting businesses, and you do find a product or service that you think may be suitable for your country or market.
If you don't mind, I'm going to ask you to switch to French. Étant donné que la plupart des gens d'Afrique parlent principalement le français, peut-être qu'on peut répondre à cette question en français.
Il n'y a pas de souci. Bonjour, je parle français.
Check your next.
I'm lucky enough to have been born in a country that's bilingual on paper, Cameroon. Moved here a couple decades ago. Haven't been back, but still feel proud of some of the heritage I got there. Donc, je vais continuer en français pour respecter certaines cultures qui m'ont été invitées. En termes de défis, surtout pour ceux qui ont fait le vol pour venir ici, pour pister, pour faire du dépistage d'affaires, le plus gros défi, c'est souvent lorsque vous avez trouvé un partenaire ou une compagnie qui a un produit que vous pensez que vous pouvez distribuer ou importer dans votre pays d'origine ou augmenter votre capacité d'où vous venez, c'est que ces compagnies ne vous connaissent pas. Ils n'ont jamais traité avec vous, autre que la confirmation ou l'introduction qui est venue d'un organisme comme le World Trade Center. Ils n'ont vraiment pas d'historique avec vous. Et le défi dans les affaires, c'est que cette confiance, ça prend du temps à nouer et à construire, et ça fait en sorte que ça ralentit souvent les opportunités. Peut-être l'opportunité que vous avez rencontrée, c'est ponctuel actuellement et vous voulez accélérer cela pour pouvoir prendre avantage. Et le défi là, c'est comment est-ce qu'on accélère ou on diminue cet écart de temps. C'est travailler avec des institutions qui spécialisent dans la gestion de risques comme EDC. Donc si vous voyez une entreprise ou lors de votre séjour ici, vous voulez importer quelque chose, et le challenge c'est d'obtenir un peu plus de temps pour pouvoir payer par exemple, parce que dépendamment d'où vous venez, l'accès au capital est très difficile. Et si vous pouvez même avoir accès à ce capital, c'est très cher. Et si vous pouvez vous baser sur vos fournisseurs ici au Canada pour vous donner un peu de temps afin d'importer le produit, le distribuer, payer, ça peut être un avantage compétitif pour vous. Je travaille avec beaucoup d'entreprises, certains entrepreneurs manitobains qui exportent en Afrique. Et un des avantages qu'ils ont, c'est le fait qu'ils peuvent emprunter ici à 3%, 5, 6% afin de financer leurs activités. Et d'après ce qu'ils partagent avec moi, dans les marchés locaux, c'est dans les 25-30%. C'est qui gruge sur votre marge. Et travailler avec un organisme comme EDC afin de pouvoir vous donner cette opportunité de profiter de ce crédit quasiment moins cher, parce que lorsqu'on vous donne le temps de payer, c'est un prêt qu'on vous fait. Donc, si c'est quelque chose vous entreprenez ou que vous avez une opportunité, n'hésitez pas à assurer-vous de prendre ma carte d'affaires et puis vous pouvez me contacter. Et je peux travailler avec cette entreprise-là pour les expliquer le mécanisme et l'opportunité qui est là.
Excellent, merci beaucoup. Nous allons donc peut-être passer à nouveau à M. Lutio. Oh, yes, English, yes, sorry, we will. If we were talking about advice, what advice would you give people who are here who might be interested in making inroads in the agribusiness?
Thank you. In fact, the first advice actually in being able to transform agricultural products to commodity is the raw material. There are a lot of farms, individuals that have small farms, but in order to be able to transform a commodity into a product that can go to the market, you need to be able to ensure that value chain, the raw material, where would you get from? Like being able to say, I'm growing cassava, so I can take cassava to the market. You alone may not be able to do that because you don't have the quantity to be able to transform to make a product. So the first is actually the raw material. It could be maybe corporate farms actually, that where you gather people or you create a corporation to be able to ensure that you can grow that raw material to have enough raw material. And then the means of being able to transform it to where you're going to process it, where would you process it? There are some universities in Africa that have food science department. That could be the place for us to talk to see what you are looking to do, because they can advise on how you can grow, when you harvest it, how you can keep it so that it doesn't rot before it gets to where it's going to be processed. That's very, very important. So the key would be really the advice. And when you're looking at